The sky stretched wide and pale over the Kanto region, a gentle morning light spilling over the rolling hills and quiet forests, brushing the treetops with soft gold. Beneath the canopy of Viridian and Cerulean, the air shimmered with a faint energy, subtle and unseen. The pulse of life that had existed long before any trainer took their first step along these paths. In this stillness, in this breathing calm, the story of Ho-Oh began, not in battles or spectacle, but in the quiet of the world itself, where time moved differently and legends were born slowly, like a sunrise. High above the clouds, beyond the reach of human eyes, a figure of immense beauty and calm circled in silence. Its feathers glimmered in hues of crimson, gold, and green, each color shifting like a reflection on water. This was Ho-Oh, the Rainbow Guardian, an eternal presence who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless generations, both human and Pokémon. It moved with a rhythm of patience and grace, wings slicing through the air in measured, deliberate beats. Though unseen by most, its essence colored the land below, casting arcs of light on rivers, forests, and towns. Every time the sun caught its wings just so, rainbows would stretch across the sky, a fleeting promise of hope and renewal for those who noticed. Ho-Oh had long been a mystery to the world. Myths whispered in the forests spoke of a Pokémon that flew higher than any other, touching the clouds with its majesty. The elders of small towns told tales of a creature who carried the souls of the departed, who could bless the pure-hearted with glimpses of what lay beyond the ordinary world. But Ho-Oh itself was not bound by human perception. It existed as part of the natural balance, soaring above storms and sunlight alike, aware of all that moved beneath it, yet untouched by the desires and fears of those below. One morning, as the first light of day filtered through the mist and dew, a small figure stepped onto the empty path of a quiet forest clearing. This figure, a young trainer from Pallet Town, walked slowly, eyes lifted to the sky, carrying a sense of wonder that had not yet been tempered by battles or leagues. Ash Ketchum, though still inexperienced, held within him a yearning for the unknown, a pull toward places he had never seen and creatures he had yet to meet. His journey had just begun. Yet even now, the currents of fate seemed to stir around him, invisible and persistent, as if the world itself had arranged this moment with careful patience. The wind shifted, carrying with it a scent unfamiliar yet comforting, a mixture of ozone after rain, soft pine, and something deeper, almost sacred, that resonated in the air. Ash paused, feeling a flutter of anticipation ripple through him. His gaze followed the faint shimmer above the clouds, where the sunlight caught a flash of color too vivid to be mistaken. And for a moment, time seemed to stretch, the forest and sky holding their breath. Ho-Oh had noticed him, the young trainer whose heart was open and pure, whose curiosity and courage had drawn attention from a being that seldom interfered with the world of humans. The rainbow stretched across the horizon as Ho-Oh descended, wings gliding silently, carrying the weight of ages, yet moving with delicate precision. The bird's shadow passed over the trees, momentarily dimming the forest floor, and Ash felt a gentle awe that settled over him like a soft blanket. There were no words, no sound beyond the rustle of leaves and the distant song of a pidgey. Everything else was stillness, the kind of quiet that filled the chest with a sense of reverence. In that instant, the young trainer understood the immensity of the world, the vastness of life, and the rare grace of witnessing something eternal. Ho-Oh circled slowly above, scanning the terrain with eyes that reflected both wisdom and compassion. This was not a challenge, nor a test. It was an observation, a recognition of every self, potential of a heart unblemished by impatience or greed. Beneath its wings, the light fractured into every color imaginable, scattering across streams, stones, and moss, illuminating the ordinary world in extraordinary hues. For Ash, the moment felt like a dream suspended in time, a silent promise of adventure and possibility that would carry him forward through every path he would ever walk. As the sun rose higher, Ho-Oh's flight continued in gentle arcs, each beat of its wings a quiet song of the world. Its feathers seemed to ripple with unseen energy, shedding warmth and calm upon the land below. The young trainer followed instinctively, moving along the edge of the forest where the light touched first, heart beating slowly, mind absorbing every subtle detail. The sparkle of dew on leaves, the faint sound of water trickling over stones, the gentle swish of wings far above. Even without understanding fully, he knew he had glimpsed something extraordinary, something that would forever mark the beginning of his journey with Pokémon. In that serene morning, the boundary between legend and reality seemed to dissolve. Ho-Oh's presence was not imposing, nor did it demand attention. It simply existed, radiant and eternal, weaving the threads of its story into the fabric of the world. The forest, the hills, the rivers, and even the scattered flowers in the clearing all seemed to bend subtly toward harmony, as if acknowledging the passage of something divine. And Ash, silent and reverent, felt a stirring of wonder that would remain with him long after the bird disappeared beyond the clouds. Gradually, Ho-Oh rose higher, tracing the rainbow arcs it had created in the sky, until it became a distant glimmer against the vast canvas of the morning. The wind shifted again, a soft, cooling breeze that carried with it the scent of adventure, of paths yet unexplored, and of bonds yet to be formed. Ash remained still for a long while, breathing in the quiet, letting the memory of the encounter imprint itself, like a gentle pulse in his chest. It was the kind of memory that did not fade, one that could be recalled at any moment to bring calm, courage, and a sense of infinite possibility. The forest slowly returned to its normal rhythm. Birds sang, leaves whispered, and the faint rustle of small Pokémon moving through underbrush filled the space once again. The moment of the encounter had passed, yet its impression lingered, a soft echo beneath the everyday world. Ash adjusted his pack, feeling both excitement and tranquility, the knowledge that the world contained wonders far beyond what he had imagined. And in his heart, he carried a silent promise: to honor the grace he had witnessed, to pursue his journey, not just with ambition, but with curiosity, kindness, and reverence. As the sun climbed fully into the sky, casting its warm, golden light across the hills, Ash set forth again along the winding path, each step lighter than before, each breath imbued with the quiet majesty of the encounter. Somewhere far above, Ho-Oh continued its flight, guardian of the skies, observer of souls, a being of legend that existed both in stories and in reality. And though Ash would not see it again that day, the memory of the Rainbow Guardian followed him, an eternal whisper, a luminous thread, guiding him onward, toward the countless adventures and encounters that awaited along the Kanto roads. By midday, the young trainer reached a clearing where sunlight spilled freely between the trees. He paused, letting his gaze wander over the landscape, now aware that even ordinary roads and forests held hidden marvels. Every step from this moment forward was layered with the quiet magic of that morning, a soft knowledge that some encounters were meant to inspire, not command, meant to awaken the heart rather than challenge it. And so he walked on, the forest, the rivers, and the distant mountains, offering a gentle rhythm, each one echoing the wings of the Rainbow Guardian, still circling far above, still watching, still a legend that had become a memory. The day carried on, but Ash felt the calm that had settled over him linger. Every rustle, every shimmer of light, every faint call of distant Pokémon reminded him of the gift he had been given, the glimpse of something eternal, something beyond the ordinary, yet intertwined with his own journey. And in this quiet reflection, he understood the promise of Ho-Oh, not as a prize to be earned, but as a symbol of hope, wonder, and the gentle, persistent beauty of the world that awaited all those willing to see it. The morning air settled softly over the hills of Kanto, carrying with it a delicate mixture of earth, dew, and the faint fragrance of wildflowers that had opened in the gentle light of dawn. Ash moved along the winding path with careful steps, his backpack light but present on his shoulders, a quiet reminder of the journey that had only just begun. The memory of the Rainbow Guardian lingered in his chest, a subtle warmth that pulsed with each beat of his heart, guiding him without haste. There was no rush, no urgency, only the slow rhythm of footsteps on soft earth and the distant murmur of life stirring in the forests. The road curved around a small hill, revealing a brook that shimmered with clarity, its waters reflecting the colors of the rising sun in fractured rainbows. Ho-Oh's influence seemed to linger here too, in the way the light bent across the ripples, creating fleeting arcs that faded as quickly as they appeared. Ash knelt to touch the cool water, cupping it gently in his hands and letting it flow through his fingers. There was a quiet serenity in the sensation, a connection to the world that was deeper than words. It was as though the brook carried whispers of all the creatures that had passed through this place, each one leaving a trace of life in its gentle current. He continued walking, the forest slowly thickening around him, trees standing as quiet sentinels along the path. Shafts of sunlight pierced the canopy in scattered beams, illuminating patches of moss and clusters of tiny mushrooms that glowed faintly in the half-light. Birds called to one another, their songs soft and deliberate, each note stretching into the stillness before being absorbed back into the forest's calm. Ash moved quietly, attuned to every subtle sound, every shift in the shadows, as if the world itself were speaking to him in a language of patience and balance. The wind began to rise, carrying a gentle, almost imperceptible energy that made the leaves rustle in a hushed chorus. It was a wind that seemed older than the hills themselves, the same that had brushed across the feathers of Ho-Oh as it soared high above the clouds. Ash felt the movement on his face, in his hair, in the very rhythm of his breathing. And he knew, without needing to see it, that the guardian of the skies was still present, somewhere far above, watching silently, its eyes attuned to the heart of the trainer below. There was a lesson in this quiet observation, that some guidance comes not from instruction, but from presence, from the gentle insistence of a being that moves with patience and grace. The path narrowed as he entered a shaded grove, where the earth was soft and springy beneath his boots. Ferns curled in delicate spirals, droplets of water clinging to their tips, each one catching the light and refracting it into tiny prisms. A slow, meandering stream cut through the grove, and Ash followed its edge for a short while, stepping carefully over smooth stones and fallen branches. Here, away from the open hills, the forest felt alive in a different way. Intimate, protective, as if every living thing had paused to acknowledge his passage. He sensed the small movements of unseen Pokémon, the brush of a tail, the scurry of tiny feet, the flutter of wings above. Everything existed in harmony, and he existed within it, fully present and quietly aware. Time flowed differently here. Minutes stretched into long, luminous threads, each one a tiny meditation on movement and stillness. Ash's thoughts wandered not to battles or trophies, but to the subtle details of life. The way sunlight shifted across bark, the faint sound of water over stone, the pulse of wind in the leaves. The experience of traveling in this way was itself a form of learning, a slow accumulation of understanding that required no urgency. Ho-Oh's lesson was already unfolding within him. To observe, to breathe, to carry wonder, gently and without expectation. By midday, the grove opened to a small clearing, where the sky revealed itself in vast stretches of pale blue. Here, the wind was stronger, lifting the scent of distant pine and fresh earth. Ash paused, closing his eyes and letting the energy pass over him. It was a quiet power, not the explosive force of storms or battle, but the enduring strength of presence and attention. Somewhere far above, he imagined, Ho-Oh traced wide arcs through the sky, its brilliant feathers catching the sunlight in shimmering patterns that mirrored the rainbows now faint in his memory. The Guardian's journey continued even as his own path unfolded, invisible yet intertwined. He set his pack down for a brief rest, taking out the notebook he carried and flipping through the pages filled with observations, sketches, and thoughts. Here, on these pages, he recorded not victories or achievements, but the subtle beauty of his surroundings. Each entry was a meditation, the tilt of a leaf, the path of a drifting cloud, the sound of, quote, a distant Pokémon call. These were the details that mattered in this quiet phase of his journey, the ones that connected him to the vast, living world in ways that battles never could. He wrote slowly, allowing his hand to move in rhythm with his breath, the forest around him maintaining its hushed accompaniment. After a while, he continued on, moving toward the edge of a hill that overlooked a broad valley below. The view stretched far and wide, rivers glinting like threads of silver, forests rolling into each other, and distant mountains fading into a haze of blue. The expanse reminded him of the vastness of the world, and yet also of his own small place within it. He felt a profound calm in the awareness of being simultaneously insignificant and essential. A single step along a path that had been trodden by countless beings before him. And as he walked, the memory of Ho-Oh's descent lingered, its rainbow feathers painting his mind with quiet hope. The afternoon sun warmed the air, and the sounds of the forest shifted subtly. Insects began their gentle chorus. Birds took flight for brief moments of feeding, and somewhere distant, a faint rustling suggested the movement of larger Pokémon. Ash adjusted his pack and moved with measured steps, careful to observe and respect the life around him. His journey was no longer simply a passage from one place to another. It had become a rhythm, a continuous conversation with the land, the creatures, and the light itself. Each breath, each footfall, carried a soft recognition of the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary. As the day wore on, clouds began to gather in slow, deliberate patterns, drifting lazily across the sky. The wind strengthened, carrying the faint scent of rain from distant mountains. Ash welcomed the change, sensing that the natural world had its own cycles and that each shift was part of a larger pattern of harmony. He followed the path along a ridge, the valley below, opening to a view of distant towns and roads, familiar yet softened by the distance and quiet. It was a world in constant motion, yet measured, deliberate, as if time itself paused to breathe along with him. By late afternoon, the light had softened to a gentle amber. Ash found a sheltered glade beneath a cluster of trees, where the ground was cushioned with moss and fallen leaves. He knelt, touched the earth, and listened, truly listened, to the subtle sounds around him, the whisper of leaves in the wind, the faint trickle of water in the distance, the careful steps of Pokémon moving unseen. It was in this quiet reflection that he began to understand something deeper. The journey was as much about noticing as it was about moving, about feeling as much as acting. Ho-Oh's presence had taught him this already in a single, fleeting encounter that now unfolded in layers with each passing step. As dusk approached, the first hints of color spread across the horizon. Soft pinks and muted oranges bled into the sky, and the shadows lengthened gently across the forest floor. Ash settled near a stream, letting his legs rest and his thoughts drift. He observed the water, clear and reflective, noticing the ripples caused by tiny fish below the surface, the drift of leaves caught in the current, and the subtle shimmer of light across every moving detail. It was quiet, gentle, and sustaining, the kind of silence that leaves the chest light, the mind calm, and the heart open. The forest around him slowly shifted toward night. Crickets began their faint chorus, leaves rustled in the evening breeze, and the faint calls of nocturnal Pokémon hinted at a hidden rhythm awakening. Ash leaned back, closing his eyes briefly, allowing himself to absorb the tranquil energy. In these moments, he realized the lesson of the journey so far. It was not only the grand encounters or legendary sightings that mattered. but the accumulation of quiet awareness, the patient attention to life's subtle beauty, and the gentle rhythms of a world that moves with both power and calm. The wind settled, carrying the faint scent of distant rain and the earth's own pulse. Ash felt the day's travel in his limbs, but was lightened by the experience of being fully present. Somewhere high above, Ho-Oh continued its flight across the vast sky, unseen yet felt, a constant thread linking legend and reality, observer and traveler, the eternal and the immediate. And as Ash rested beside the stream, he understood that this path, the hills, the forests, the rivers, and the wind, was itself a teacher, and every step forward was an act of learning, wonder, and quiet growth. The dawn arrived with a gentle hush, painting the forests and hills of Kanto in muted golds and soft pinks. Ash awoke beneath the sheltering branches of a tall oak, feeling the calm of the morning settling through his limbs. The path before him stretched like a ribbon through the quiet earth, weaving between wildflowers and stones, through forests that seemed to breathe with their own slow rhythm. Even the air carried a sense of patience, a subtle reminder that each step taken was as significant as the goal toward which it moved. In the silence, memories of the Rainbow Guardian hovered at the edge of his mind. Ho-Oh's magnificent flight, the shimmer of rainbow light across the forests and streams, and the weightless grace of its wings remained vivid, not as an image of triumph but as a gentle inspiration. The encounter had left a quiet imprint on him, like the soft echo of a song half remembered, urging him forward with both curiosity and reverence. The road ahead led him into a clearing where the wind carried whispers of distant mountains. The grass swayed in measured waves, each blade catching the morning light and refracting it into delicate sparkles that flickered like tiny stars. Pokémon moved through the field with a careful grace, a Pidgey flitting from branch to branch, a Rattata pausing mid-step to sniff the air, and a Butterfree drifting lazily on the soft currents. Ash observed them quietly, recognizing that their motions, deliberate and unhurried, reflected the very rhythm that Ho-Oh had imparted in its presence. As he walked, he became increasingly aware of the wind, not merely as a physical force, but as a subtle guide. It bent the grass, carried scents of distant water, and stirred the leaves in a way that suggested both direction and welcome. Ash lifted his face to the sky, feeling the currents brush against him, and imagined the Rainbow Guardian far above, tracing arcs through the heavens with wings that captured the first light. The connection was intangible, yet profound, a thread of understanding stretching between trainer and legend, between earth and sky. The path wound upward, climbing into hills that offered broader views of Kanto's landscapes. Streams shimmered as they twisted down valleys. Forests sprawled in unbroken green, and towns lay distant, small and quiet, tucked among rolling hills. Ash's steps slowed as he took in the expanse, allowing his senses to drink in every detail, the colors, the textures, the gentle hum of life. The world itself seemed alive with purpose, a quiet orchestration of balance and wonder, inviting him to move not with haste but with awareness. Along the way, he came across a small grove of tall, slender trees whose leaves whispered secrets with each movement of the wind. Here, the world felt suspended, as if time itself had slowed to match the soft rhythm of his breath. A pair of bellsprouts swayed gently among the underbrush, their stems bending in unison with the breeze, while a small pollywag slipped into the water of a shallow stream, leaving ripples that spread outward in concentric circles. Ash paused, crouching low to observe, feeling the pulse of life through every ripple, every sway, every flutter of wings. As the sun climbed higher, Ho-Oh's presence became almost palpable. Though invisible to the eye, the air carried a subtle warmth and a quiet resonance, a reminder that the Rainbow Guardian moved beyond human perception, yet remained deeply connected to the unfolding world. Ash felt a calm certainty that some encounters were not meant to be repeated on demand, but to leave impressions that guided the spirit, offering lessons in patience, attentiveness, and humility. The memory of the flight, the shimmer of color, and the faint, sacred energy lingered, forming an invisible path of inspiration that he carried with each step. The trail led him toward a ridge, where the view expanded to reveal distant mountains and valleys stretching beyond the horizon. The wind intensified slightly, ruffling his hair and carrying the scents of pine, earth, and something subtly sweet, perhaps the faint fragrance of distant flowers or the trace of a hidden waterfall. He stopped at the ridge, letting the breeze envelop him, closing his eyes to fully absorb the sensation. It was a quiet affirmation that his journey was not measured by battles won or badges earned, but by the attentiveness to the world around him, by the gentle recognition of beauty in its many forms. The afternoon sunlight grew softer, bathing the hills and forests in a golden haze. Ash walked on, following the contours of the land, noticing the subtle shifts in color and shadow as the day progressed. Birds wheeled in lazy arcs above him, insects hummed in rhythmic chorus, and distant Pokémon called faintly from hidden glades. Each sound, each movement, became part of a symphony that resonated with his heart, reinforcing the calm confidence he had begun to feel. After witnessing Ho-Oh's flight, he paused beside a small stream that curved lazily through the hillside, its waters clear and cool, reflecting fragments of clouds and sky in delicate patterns. Ash knelt and let his hands trail through the current, watching ripples distort and reshape the mirrored sky. In this small meditative act, he sensed the rhythm of the natural world aligning with the rhythm within him. Every droplet, every shimmer, every pulse of water seemed to echo the silent beat of Ho-Oh's wings, carrying an eternal lesson in grace, patience, and quiet observation. Evening approached, soft and deliberate, painting the sky in hues of rose, amber, and violet. The shadows lengthened, stretching across the hills and forests like gentle fingers. Ash found a sheltered glade beneath a cluster of trees and settled on the mossy ground, letting the day's experiences unfold in his mind. He reflected not on battles or accolades, but on the subtle beauty of the world, the rhythms of life that Ho-Oh had revealed, and the quiet joy of simply moving through the landscape with awareness and care. The first stars appeared, timid and delicate. In the vast expanse above, a soft breeze rustled the leaves, carrying the scent of distant water and the faint trace of night-blooming flowers. Ash felt the presence of the rainbow guardian once more, an intangible whisper in the wind, a subtle reminder that the world held mysteries both vast and intimate. Somewhere beyond sight, Ho-Oh continued its flight, tracing silent arcs in the sky, unseen yet profoundly felt, guiding not with command, but with example, inspiring a young trainer to move with reverence and curiosity. Night deepened, enveloping the forest in gentle darkness. The chorus of nocturnal creatures began, a soft symphony of crickets, frogs, and distant calls of night Pokémon. Ash lay back on the soft ground, eyes lifted toward the faint shimmer of stars and the memory of rainbow light that lingered in his mind. He breathed slowly, matching the rhythm of the night, absorbing the calm energy of the forest and the lesson of the skies above. Each moment became a meditation, each heartbeat a quiet affirmation of the journey he had begun, and the subtle guidance of Ho-Oh that would accompany him in spirit. As he drifted toward sleep, the young trainer carried with him a sense of connection and purpose. The world around him, from the smallest leaf to the distant mountains, resonated with life, color, and silent wisdom. The encounter with the Rainbow Guardian had opened a path not only through the land, but within himself, teaching patience, reverence, and quiet wonder. And as the night deepened, Ash's dreams carried the soft echoes of wings slicing through sunlight, the gentle arcs of rainbow light across forests and streams, and the silent promise of adventures yet to come, guided by the eternal presence of Ho-Oh. The morning light crept softly through the canopy of the Kanto forests, spilling its gentle glow across the moss-covered ground. Each leaf, each blade of grass, seemed to hold the memory of countless dawns, catching the light and reflecting it with a quiet brilliance. Ash moved along the path with measured steps, his mind attuned to the subtle rhythms of the world around him, the distant trickle of a stream, the soft flutter of wings, the occasional rustle of leaves as unseen Pokémon moved through the underbrush. In this stillness, the lessons of Ho-Oh lingered, weaving a delicate awareness into every heartbeat. The path led him toward a ridge overlooking a vast valley. From this vantage point, the forest stretched endlessly, rivers winding like silver threads, and mountains rose in the distance, shrouded in the mist of early morning. Ash felt the enormity of the world, its scale both humbling and inspiring. The wind brushed against his face, carrying scents of pine, earth, and distant blossoms. There was a quiet intelligence to it, a soft reminder that the world moved according to its own rhythm, not hurried by ambition, but guided by balance and presence. As he gazed across the expanse, Ash's mind drifted to the notion of the legendary Pokémon that inhabited this world. Ho-Oh was only one among many, each with its own purpose, its own quiet influence on the land. Dialga shaped the flow of time, Palkia the space it contained, and Lugia watched over the seas with solemn vigilance. Even in their absence, their presence was felt. In the movement of clouds, the sway of oceans, the rustle of forests. These beings were not mere creatures to be captured or challenged. They were guardians, silent, yet profoundly interwoven with the balance of life itself. The wind shifted, carrying a faint, sweet aroma that made Ash pause. He knelt beside a patch of wildflowers, letting the delicate scent fill his senses. In this small, fragrant moment, he felt the whisper of Ho-Oh again, a reminder that the legendary was not only in grandeur, but in subtlety. The wings of the Rainbow Guardian had traced invisible arcs across the sky, leaving imprints not just in memory, but in the way the world carried itself. Each leaf shimmered with faint light. Each ripple of water caught the sun's brilliance in fleeting rainbows. Ash sensed that every detail, no matter how minute, was part of the tapestry woven by the legendaries. He continued walking, the trail winding through a grove of tall pines whose trunks rose like pillars of quiet patience. Birds called softly in the distance, their song stretching thinly across the forest, blending into a hushed harmony. Ash noticed a small herd of Rattata moving cautiously through the underbrush, each one alert yet unhurried. Their movements mirrored the still, deliberate energy he had begun to feel within himself. He realized that observation without interruption, attentiveness without interference, allowed him to perceive the world more clearly than any hurried pursuit ever could. By midday, the path opened into a plateau, bathed in sunlight. Here, the valley below seemed to stretch endlessly, each layer of trees, rivers, and hills shimmering under the warmth. Ash paused, letting his eyes take in the scene, feeling the wind shift in gentle currents across his face. Somewhere high above, beyond sight, Ho-Oh must have been tracing arcs through the sky once more, its majestic presence a quiet pulse in the fabric of the world. Ash understood that the Rainbow Guardian's significance was not in being seen, but in being felt, in the awareness it inspired and the patience it cultivated. The afternoon brought subtle changes to the forest. Shadows lengthened, and the golden light fell in diagonal streams across the ground, illuminating clusters of moss, patches of wildflowers, and tiny streams that glimmered like molten silver. Ash followed a shallow brook that meandered through the plateau, its waters carrying reflections of clouds and light. Each ripple seemed to carry whispers, stories of the Pokémon that had passed before him, of the legends that existed beyond human understanding. He knelt, letting his hands trail in the cool water, feeling its rhythm, and sensed that the flow mirrored the wings of Ho-Oh, the quiet, persistent movement that shapes the world without force or haste. As he moved deeper into the plateau, the forest thickened, shadows interlacing with sunlight in delicate patterns. A gentle breeze rustled the trees, carrying the faint scent of distant rain, promising renewal and subtle change. Ash noticed a flock of Pidgeotto gliding above the treetops, wings outstretched, following the currents of wind effortlessly. The sight resonated deeply within him, a reflection of Ho-Oh's own flight, reminding him that movement could be graceful, deliberate, and full of presence. The world was alive with subtle lessons for those willing to observe, and Ash's awareness of them deepened with each quiet step. Evening approached with a gradual softness, painting the sky in muted tones of rose, amber, and pale violet. Ash found a gentle slope near the edge of the plateau and settled, letting the golden light wash over him. Around him, the forest exhaled its daily rhythm, the faint hum of insects, the distant rustle of nocturnal Pokémon preparing for the night, the whisper of leaves swaying in the cooling wind. In this delicate balance, he felt the echoes of the legendaries, the silent guardians whose presence guided the natural world, and the humans who journeyed within it. He reflected on the lessons of patience, observation, and humility, realizing that the journey was not measured by victories or captures, but by the depth of awareness and connection he cultivated along the way. Ho-Oh's flight had been the beginning of this understanding, a spark that had opened his eyes to the rhythms of the world. Every breeze, every shadow, every ripple in the stream carried a fragment of wisdom from the Rainbow Guardian, woven seamlessly into the tapestry of life. As night descended, Ash lay beneath the shelter of pine boughs, the stars beginning to pierce the deepening blue of the sky. The wind whispered softly, carrying scents of pine, earth, and distant waters. He closed his eyes, letting the calm of the plateau wash over him, feeling the subtle pulse of the world and the faint presence of Ho-Oh high above. The legendaries were unseen, yet their essence lingered in every motion, every current, every quiet moment. In the stillness of the night, Ash's heart carried a gentle awareness. The world was vast, filled with wonders both visible and hidden, and his journey was as much about learning to see and feel as it was about walking forward. The Rainbow Guardian's influence had begun to shape not only his path, but his perception, guiding him toward a deeper understanding of the natural world, the Pokémon he traveled with, and the quiet magnificence that existed in every moment. As sleep crept in, Ash imagined the wings of Ho-Oh slicing through the night sky, its arcs of rainbow light painting the heavens, a silent promise of guidance, wonder, and adventure. And in this peaceful embrace of night and sky, he drifted into dreams, carrying the subtle, enduring whispers of the legendary into the unfolding journey that lay ahead. The sky above Kanto stretched in gentle hues of soft gold and pale azure, signaling the arrival of another calm morning. Ash rose from his resting place beneath the pine boughs, carrying with him the lingering warmth of sleep and the quiet impression of the plateau from the previous day. The wind moved softly across the hills, carrying the faint sense of earth, distant rivers, and flowering meadows. Each inhalation reminded him of the subtle presence that had begun to shape his journey, the quiet guidance of beings that existed far beyond ordinary perception. He began to walk along a narrow forest trail, the earth cushioned with moss and fallen leaves. The sunlight filtered through the canopy, casting delicate patterns across the ground that shifted slowly with the wind. Ash moved with measured steps, attuned to the rhythm of the forest, the flutter of hidden wings, the distant call of a pidgey, the soft ripple of water over stones. Every detail held significance, a fragment of the intentioned world's natural balance, and he felt it all with a sense of reverent awareness. As he ascended a gentle slope, a subtle shimmer in the sky caught his eye. Far above the treetops, Ho-Oh glided gracefully, wings outstretched, reflecting the sun's first rays in brilliant arcs of crimson, gold, and green. Ash paused, eyes wide, yet calm, sensing the presence more fully than any sight could convey. The Rainbow Guardian's flight was deliberate, measured, each movement imbued with patience and purpose. It was not a spectacle for admiration alone, but a gentle instruction, a lesson in perception, stillness, and wonder. The wind shifted around him, carrying a faint energy that seemed to vibrate in harmony with the steady beat of Ho-Oh's wings. Ash felt it in his chest, a quiet resonance that echoed the rhythm of the world. He understood instinctively that this presence was not meant to be captured, challenged, or commanded. Instead, it existed to awaken attention, to encourage patience, and to deepen connection with the land and its living beings. In this realization, the young trainer felt a profound stillness settle into his being, a calm understanding that some truths are felt rather than spoken, observed rather than possessed. The trail led him into a grove of ancient trees, their trunks wide and gnarled, roots intertwined like the threads of an intricate tapestry. Shafts of sunlight pierced the canopy intermittently, illuminating patches of moss and clusters of small, delicate flowers. Pokémon moved quietly among the foliage, a Pidgeotto landing on a branch, a Caterpie inching along a leaf, a few Sentret observing from behind tree trunks. Ash moved carefully, mindful not to disturb the harmony, letting his presence blend with the natural rhythm of the grove. Midday brought a quiet warmth that seeped into the forest floor. Ash found a small stream, its waters clear and steady, winding gently through rocks and ferns. Kneeling beside it, he let his frisper hands trail through the cool current, feeling the subtle vibrations of the flowing water. Each ripple seemed to echo the wing beats above, a silent dialogue between the streams of the earth and the arcs of the sky. The reflection of light on the water caught his gaze, and he imagined the rainbow patterns of Ho-Oh painting the clouds far above. There was a serenity here that no words could capture, a connection that transcended sight and sound, grounding him in the present with gentle insistence. The afternoon sky deepened to soft shades of amber and rose. Ash continued his journey along the hillside, observing the quiet interplay of light and shadow. Small Pokémon emerged from their hiding places, moving deliberately as if guided by the same calm rhythm he had begun to feel within himself. The forest breathed around him, and in the hush, he sensed the persistent presence of the guardian above. Ho-Oh's wings traced subtle arcs that seemed to resonate with every living creature, a silent choreography that reminded Ash of the interconnection of all things, the flow of air, water, life, and energy across the land. As dusk approached, the light softened to muted violet and gold. Ash reached a gentle rise, overlooking a valley bathed in the final glow of the setting sun. Shadows stretched across the terrain like delicate fingers, touching the streams, the trees, and the tiny creatures moving below. He settled on the slope, letting the day's calm settle over him like a blanket. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the faintest trace of the rainbow, a lingering imprint of Ho-Oh's flight. Ash felt the connection more deeply than ever, a quiet understanding that the legendary's presence was woven into the land itself, invisible, yet profoundly real. The night unfolded gradually, bringing the soft chorus of crickets and the distant calls of nocturnal Pokémon. Ash lay back on the gentle slope, eyes lifted to the first stars shimmering in the Prayam, darkening sky. Somewhere high above, Ho-Oh continued its flight, silent, graceful, and eternal. Its arcs of rainbow light, though now unseen, were felt in the calm energy that permeated the valley. Ash breathed deeply, absorbing the rhythm of the land, the flow of water, the song of the night, and the gentle guidance of the guardian. In the stillness, he reflected on the lessons of presence, patience, and observation. The path of a trainer was not only defined by battles or accomplishments, but by awareness, reverence, and the quiet acceptance of the world's subtle teachings. Ho-Oh's flight was a reminder that some guidance is silent, some wisdom exists only in observation, and some lessons unfold gradually, like light through leaves or ripples in a stream. Sleep approached with the cool breath of night, carrying with it scents of pine, earth, and distant water. Ash's heart carried the quiet imprint of the guardian's presence, a thread of wonder and patience that would accompany him on every step forward. The Rainbow Guardian had taught him that greatness was not always visible, that guidance often whispers rather than shouts, and that the path of the heart is measured in attention, care, and the subtle embrace of the world. As he drifted into rest, the stars shimmered faintly above, and the invisible arcs of Ho-Oh's flight lingered in his mind. The day had been one of quiet discovery, of connection, and of lessons carried not in words but in presence. And in this gentle, meditative space, Ash dreamed of skies wide and endless, wings slicing through sunlight, and the promise of adventures guided by the calm, enduring spirit of the Rainbow Guardian. The dawn arrived like a gentle whisper, painting Kanto's forests and hills with pale gold and soft amber light. Ash stirred from his rest beneath a canopy of trees, feeling the cool, fresh air fill his lungs and awaken his senses. The memory of Ho-Oh's majestic flight lingered within him, a quiet warmth pulsing like a gentle heartbeat, guiding him forward without haste. Each step along the forest path carried a slow awareness, a deliberate attention to the rhythm of life surrounding him. The rustle of leaves, the call of distant Pokémon, the soft murmur of the earth beneath his feet. As he moved, subtle changes in the world caught his attention. Sunlight fractured through the branches above, casting fleeting rainbow patterns on the forest floor. The dew on leaves shimmered like tiny prisms, and the soft ripple of a stream mirrored the faint arcs of color in the sky. These small signs seemed almost intentional, echoes of Ho-Oh's presence lingering far beyond the moment of sight. Ash sensed that the Rainbow Guardian had left traces in the world, not to be pursued, but to be noticed, to teach the art of patient observation and the quiet appreciation of beauty. The path led him to a hilltop overlooking a serene valley. From this vantage, rivers wound gently through the landscape. Forests stretched endlessly, and distant mountains shimmered in the morning light. A flock of Pidgey rose in unison, their wings slicing through the soft air with effortless grace. Ash paused, watching them move in harmony with the wind, and he felt a resonance between their rhythm and the arcs of Ho-Oh that still lingered in memory. Each movement, each gentle turn in the sky, seemed to convey the same silent lesson. Life's beauty often reveals itself in subtle patterns, in patience, and in attentive presence. Continuing along the ridge, Ash noticed a slight glimmer above the forest canopy, a fleeting flash of red and gold, as if the sunlight itself had taken form. He followed it with his eyes, moving slowly, attuned to the quiet energy of the land. Somewhere high above, though invisible to the ordinary eye, Ho-Oh traced arcs through the sky, its wings scattering light like liquid fire and shadow. The young trainer understood instinctively that the Guardian's influence was woven into the natural patterns around him. The subtle shimmer, the movement of leaves, the soft breeze, they were all parts of a quiet language, teaching without words. The afternoon sun grew warmer, and Ash came upon a small clearing dotted with wildflowers and stones. A shallow stream meandered through the center, reflecting the sky in gentle ripples. He knelt beside it, letting his fingers glide through the cool water, and watched as small Pokémon, Poliwag, Bellsprout, and a cautious Nidoran, moved silently along the edges. Their actions seemed deliberate, measured, and in harmony with the subtle currents of the forest. Ash realized that Ho-Oh's presence extended far beyond its flight. It influenced the very rhythm of life, encouraging balance and serenity in every living being it touched. As he continued walking, the wind shifted again, brushing softly across his face and through the leaves of tall pines. Faint rainbow patterns appeared momentarily as sunlight struck droplets clinging to branches, forming arcs that mirrored the Guardian's own brilliance. Ash breathed deeply, letting the patterns wash over him, a gentle reminder that some signs were not meant to be chased, but appreciated. Every shimmer, every reflection, every movement of the natural world carried the imprint of something eternal, a whisper from a legend that existed both in the sky and in the heart. By late afternoon, the path led him to the edge of a gentle slope overlooking a wide river. The water glistened under the sunlight, reflecting clouds, trees, and the occasional flash of wild Pokémon moving along its banks. Ash paused, closing his eyes for a moment to absorb the calm energy around. To him, the valley seemed alive with quiet significance, every sound and movement a reminder of Ho-Oh's presence. Even without seeing it directly, he felt the Guardian's guidance woven into the patterns of life, an invisible thread connecting the sky, the land, and the creatures that inhabited both. As evening approached, the sky transformed into soft shades of rose, gold, and violet. Shadows lengthened, stretching delicately across hills and forests. Ash found a small, sheltered clearing to rest, letting the day's experiences settle into his mind. He thought not of battles or victories, but of the subtle lessons hidden in light, wind, and water. Ho-Oh's flight had been more than an encounter. It was a living presence, guiding him to notice the harmony of the world, to embrace patience, and to move with awareness and care. The first stars appeared as night deepened, faint but steady against the darkening sky. Ash lay back, gazing upward, imagining the guardian tracing silent arcs through the heavens. The gentle chorus of nocturnal Pokémon, crickets, Froakie, and distant calls of Pidgeotto filled the air, a quiet symphony that echoed the rhythms of the day. In this meditative space, he felt connected to the legendary in a way beyond sight or sound, a bond of attention, respect, and quiet understanding. The night wrapped the forest in soft darkness, carrying scents of pine, earth, and distant water. Ash drifted toward sleep with the subtle imprint of Ho-Oh lingering in his mind and heart. The rainbow arcs, the soft patterns of light, the gentle rhythm of the world, all whispered of guidance, wonder, and the enduring presence of the legendary guardian. The day had been one of observation, awareness, and quiet reflection. And in the calm of night, he felt a deep, meditative certainty. The world was alive, with signs, and the gentle call of Ho-Oh would continue to guide him in subtle, invisible ways along the journey ahead. The morning arrived slowly, diffusing pale gold and soft rose light across the hills of Kanto. Ash stirred beneath a gentle canopy of oak and pine, feeling the cool breath of dawn on his skin. The forest was quiet, yet alive. Each leaf, each blade of grass, each ripple of a nearby stream, imbued with a rhythm he had begun to recognize, the subtle pulse of life that Ho-Oh had awakened within him. Every breath seemed intertwined with the world, every step a quiet meditation on movement and presence. As he moved along the winding trail, Ash noticed subtle changes in the air. The wind carried a soft resonance, like a faint echo, brushing through leaves and tall grass in delicate waves. It reminded him of the wing beats of the Rainbow Guardian, graceful arcs that had traced the sky the day he first saw it. Though invisible in the trees above, Ho-Oh's presence was tangible, a whisper in the currents of air, a gentle rhythm that matched the heartbeat of the valley below. The trail led to a sunlit ridge overlooking a serene valley where rivers gleamed like molten silver. Pokémon moved quietly along the landscape, Pidgey and Pidgeotto gliding through gentle thermals, Bellsprout swaying in the breeze, and a Poliwag dipping in and out of the water with deliberate care. Ash paused, watching their movements, sensing a deeper harmony between the creatures and the environment. Everything appeared to move with intent, as though the unseen guardian guided the flow of life without disruption, creating a world of quiet balance. A subtle shimmer caught his eye, a glint of gold among the clouds far above. Ash tilted his head upward, feeling a familiar flutter in his chest. He knew instinctively that Ho-Oh was near, tracing arcs through the sky in a slow, deliberate pattern. The rainbow of its feathers reflected the sunlight, fragmenting into soft prisms that fell like gentle rain across the landscape. Though distant, the energy it radiated was palpable, brushing against the valley and threading through every living being within it. Ash exhaled slowly, letting the sensation fill him with calm clarity. The path descended into a grove of tall, intertwined pines. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, casting delicate, shifting shadows on the mossy floor. Ash moved carefully, respecting the quiet harmony around him. Small Pokémon peeked from behind tree trunks and shrubs, observing him but remaining calm, as though reassured by the invisible presence above. The forest felt suspended in a meditative balance, and Ash understood that Ho-Oh's influence was not confined to the sky. It seeped into the land, into water, into air, and into every small life form, shaping the rhythm of existence with subtle grace. By midday, he reached a gentle stream that curved through the grove, its water reflecting dappled light in slow, liquid patterns. Ash knelt, letting his hands glide through the cool current. Tiny ripples spread outward, catching fragments of sunlight and scattering them across stones and ferns. The stream seemed to carry whispers, echoes of the guardian's presence in the shapes of the water, the flow, and the reflection of the sky above. He felt connected to the world more deeply than ever, the heartbeat of life aligning with his own. The afternoon grew warm, and the wind shifted, carrying scents of earth, distant flowers, and faint traces of rain. Ash noticed patterns forming in the clouds, arcs and curves that seemed almost deliberate, mirroring the elegant wing beats he had witnessed long ago. He felt a quiet certainty, a connection that transcended sight. Ho-Oh's flight was both guidance and companion, silent but persistent, threading through his journey in invisible but meaningful ways. Every movement of air, every reflection of light, every rhythm of life carried a subtle message, and he welcomed the gentle clarity it brought. As evening approached, the sky was painted in muted shades of violet, rose, and amber. Shadows stretched across the forest floor and hillsides, falling gently over streams and patches of moss. Ash settled beneath the protective boughs of an ancient tree, the soft cushion of leaves and earth beneath him. He observed the valley in quiet meditation, sensing the pulse of life around him, the hidden movements of Pokémon, the wind through branches, the reflection of the fading light on water. In this stillness, he felt the guardian's presence as an echo in every natural rhythm, a resonance that calmed and focused the mind. Night slowly wrapped the forest in darkness, leaving only the gentle chorus of nocturnal life. Crickets, froki, and distant calls of Pidgeotto filled the air with a quiet symphony. Ash lay back, closing his eyes, and imagined Ho-Oh tracing silent arcs above the clouds. The memory of rainbow light, the subtle shifts in wind, the gentle shimmer on streams, they all converged in a meditative awareness that flowed through him. He understood, without words, that this was a bond born of observation and respect. The guardian guided not by force, but through presence, teaching patience, attention, and the appreciation of subtle beauty. The night carried the scent of pine, earth, and distant water. Ash drifted toward sleep, his heartbeat synchronized with the quiet rhythms of the world. The echo of Ho-Oh's wings lingered in his mind, a soft, enduring reminder of the gentle power of legend and the profound calm that accompanies awareness. His journey was not just measured by steps or achievements, but by the ability to notice, to breathe, and to let the wisdom of the world quietly guide him forward. As stars pierced the night sky, he dreamed of skies wide and endless, of wings slicing through sunlight and clouds, and of arcs of rainbow light that illuminated the path of life with quiet, eternal grace. The echo of Ho-Oh was now part of him, a rhythm, a guide, a whispering presence threading through every step of his unfolding adventure. The morning unfolded with soft, golden light filtering through the tall trees of Kanto, settling gently on the forest floor. Ash rose from his resting place, the quiet hush of dawn enveloping him like a gentle embrace. Every sound seemed amplified in its subtlety, the distant ripple of a stream, the soft rustle of leaves, the faint calls of Pidgey and other forest Pokémon. The world moved with a rhythm that was delicate yet persistent, and Ash felt deeply connected to the pulse of life that stretched across the hills and valleys before him. As he walked along the winding path, the air seemed charged with an energy he could almost touch. It was not a force of urgency or alarm, but a subtle, patient presence, like the gentle exhalation of the world itself. Ash felt a quiet anticipation, a sense that the events of the day might carry something extraordinary. If only he paid careful attention. The memory of Ho-Oh lingered at the edge of his awareness, its wing beats and rainbow light echoing in every movement of wind and water. The path opened into a sunlit glade, where a shallow stream curved through smooth stones and moss-covered banks. The sunlight fractured across the surface, forming fleeting, delicate rainbows that shimmered and dissolved with every ripple. Ash knelt beside the stream, letting his fingers brush through the cool water, feeling the subtle energy that seemed to resonate with the Guardian's flight. In this quiet, tangible moment, he realized that Ho-Oh's presence was not only seen in the sky, but woven into the very fabric of the world. The movement of water, the shimmer of light, the sway of leaves in the wind. A gentle rustle drew his attention to the edge of the glade. A group of wild Pokémon paused, watching him with cautious curiosity. A bellsprout swaying gently, a Nidoran sniffing the air, a Poliwag peeking from the water. Their movements were deliberate, synchronized with the rhythm of the wind and the subtle glimmer of sunlight. Ash understood with calm certainty that these were not ordinary moments of life. They were echoes of Ho-Oh's influence, traces of the legendary's passage through the natural order. Every living being seemed attuned to the quiet energy that the Guardian imparted, moving in harmony without knowing why. The trail led Ash to a hilltop overlooking a broad valley, rivers winding like silver threads, forests stretching endlessly, and distant mountains softened by the haze of midday light. There, a sudden shimmer in the sky caught his eye, a brief flash of red and gold feathers far above the clouds. His heart lifted in recognition. Ho-Oh was near, its wings tracing arcs through the heavens in a deliberate, meditative pattern. The rainbow of its plumage reflected the sunlight in radiant fragments, scattering across the valley in transient bursts of color. Though the sight was fleeting, its impact was profound, anchoring Ash's awareness to the subtle guidance that the Guardian provided. The afternoon brought soft winds that shifted through the trees, carrying faint scents of pine, earth, and distant blossoms. Ash followed their movement with careful attention, noticing the way leaves trembled and branches swayed in response. Every motion seemed meaningful, a gentle whisper of direction and presence. Small Pokémon emerged to interact with their environment, moving with a careful deliberateness that mirrored the Guardian's rhythm. Ash felt that these patterns, these subtle cues, were a tangible manifestation of Ho-Oh's influence, a connection to legend that could be perceived by those patient enough to notice. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in muted shades of rose and amber, Ash found a quiet spot on a gentle slope to rest. The wind stirred softly around him, carrying with it the faint echo of rainbow light, the imprint of wing beats, and the quiet pulse of life in motion. He observed the valley below, the shimmering river, the forests alive with hidden activity, and the occasional glimmer of light on the water, and felt a profound serenity settle within him. The Guardian's presence, though distant, was unmistakable. A tangible whisper that guided attention, cultivated patience, and deepened the connection to the natural world. Night approached gradually, the first stars twinkling faintly above. Crickets and nocturnal Pokémon began their chorus, the symphony of the forest unfolding in measured rhythm. Ash lay back, closing his eyes, allowing the gentle energy of the land to flow through him. He imagined Ho-Oh high above, tracing its arcs in the sky, the rainbow of its feathers reflected in the patterns of the valley, the streams, and the forest around him. The Guardian's presence was now not just memory, but an active part of the landscape, tangible in the way light, wind, and life interacted. In the quiet of night, Ash felt a deep understanding bloom within him. The world was alive, with signs, small, yet profound. And the legendary's influence could be perceived by anyone willing to slow, observe, and attune themselves to the rhythm of life. Ho-Oh's guidance was subtle, persistent, and serene, teaching that connection, awareness, and reverence were as powerful as any visible display of strength. Sleep approached with the soft breath of night, carrying scents of earth, water, and pine. Ash drifted into rest with a sense of calm certainty, the tangible whispers of the Guardian echoing in his mind. Rainbow arcs shimmered faintly in his imagination, wing beats echoed in the quiet rhythm of his heart, and a profound peace settled over his spirit. The journey was no longer just a path through forests and hills. It was a meditative dance with life itself, guided by the silent, enduring presence of Ho-Oh. The morning unfolded gently, the sky awash with soft shades of pink and gold, spilling delicate light across the hills and forests of Kanto. Ash stirred beneath the shelter of a tall oak, the earth beneath him cool and firm, the air filled with the subtle hum of life awakening. Each sound carried with it meaning: the soft rustle of leaves, the gentle trickle of a distant stream, the faint calls of waking Pokémon. In these quiet moments, Ash felt the pulse of the world and the lingering presence of Ho-Oh, its invisible guidance threading through the rhythm of the day. He began his walk along a forest path lined with moss and scattered stones, each step careful and deliberate. The wind moved in gentle currents, brushing against his face and rustling the leaves above. Ash felt the soft, familiar resonance of the Guardian's wings echoing in the movement of the air. Though he had seen Ho-Oh before, today's experience carried a deeper significance. The presence was no longer only a distant spectacle, but a guiding light, subtly influencing his journey, illuminating the path forward with unseen yet unmistakable clarity. The trail curved into a wide glade where sunlight fell in golden streams across the grass. A small stream wound its way through, glinting in the morning light and reflecting the shifting sky above. Ash knelt beside it, letting his fingers glide through the cool water, feeling the gentle pulse of life in its flow. Small ripples formed and spread outward, catching the sun in fleeting fragments of color, as if each droplet held a whisper of the Guardian's presence. He sensed that Ho-Oh's influence extended beyond the visible, shaping the harmony of life in ways subtle yet profound, guiding the rhythm of Pokémon, streams, and forests alike. As he continued, Ash noticed faint arcs of rainbow light dancing across the canopy, reflected from droplets of dew clinging to leaves. The patterns were transient, delicate, almost ephemeral, yet they carried a significance that stirred something deep within him. He realized that these were signs, a language of light, movement, and reflection through which Ho-Oh communicated. The legendary's presence was teaching him to observe with care, to move with patience, and to notice the extraordinary within the ordinary. The path led to a gentle rise overlooking a broad valley, rivers threading through the green expanse like silver ribbons, forests stretching endlessly toward distant mountains. Ash paused, sensing a soft energy brushing against him, a quiet affirmation of his path. High above, faint glimmers of red and gold shimmered among the clouds. Though the Guardian remained distant, its presence felt immediate, a guiding light rather than a distant memory. The arcs of its flight were reflected in the currents of wind, the shimmer of water, and the gentle sway of the trees. By midday, the trail wound through a dense forest, where the interplay of shadow and light created a mosaic across the mossy floor. Ash observed small Pokémon moving deliberately through the underbrush, their actions synchronized with the gentle rhythm of the environment. Each flutter of a wing, each rustle of leaves, each ripple of water seemed to resonate with the Guardian's presence. He understood that Ho-Oh's guidance was not always visible in grand spectacle. It often manifested in quiet, subtle ways, in the movements of nature, and in the patience required to notice them. The afternoon brought warmer light and a gentle breeze that stirred the forest with deliberate rhythm. Ash moved with care, following the path as it curved along a hillside. He noticed the small, almost imperceptible signs: dew glinting on a blade of grass, sunlight catching a ripple in the stream, a Pidgeotto soaring along a thermal, and felt them as invitations to focus, to remain present, and to embrace the gentle flow of life. These signs were subtle, yet they illuminated his way forward with a clarity born of attentiveness rather than haste. As evening approached, the sky softened into gentle shades of lavender, rose, and gold. Ash found a quiet slope to rest upon, letting the day's journey settle within him. The valley below shimmered with the reflections of the fading sun on rivers and streams, and the forest's creatures moved with deliberate grace in the cooling air. The wind carried faint, shimmering traces of rainbow light, as if Ho-Oh's flight were still present, guiding without intrusion, offering a subtle reminder of the beauty and harmony in the world. Night deepened, bringing with it the soft chorus of nocturnal Pokémon, crickets, Froakie, and distant Pidgeotto, blending into a quiet symphony. Ash lay back on the soft ground, eyes toward the first stars that pierced the darkening sky. The arcs of rainbow light that had marked Ho-Oh's wings lingered in his mind, a guiding light weaving through his awareness. In this quiet reflection, he understood that guidance could be subtle, persistent, and profoundly powerful, without ever being loud or obvious. Sleep approached with the gentle breath of night, carrying scents of earth, water, and pine. Ash drifted into rest, feeling the Guardian's influence as a soft, enduring presence within him. The journey was no longer simply a path across Kanto. It had become a quiet meditation on attention, awareness, and the gentle flow of life. Rainbow arcs shimmered in his dreams, wings moved with graceful purpose, and the guiding light of Ho-Oh infused each step of his adventure with calm, patient, and eternal wisdom. The morning dawned with soft light spilling over the hills of Kanto, painting the forest canopy in gentle hues of gold and rose. Ash rose slowly, the cool earth beneath him, firm, yet comforting. The forest exhaled a quiet breath, carrying the scents of pine, earth, and distant flowers. Each sound, the trickle of a stream, the rustle of leaves, the call of waking Pokémon, felt amplified, a symphony of subtle energy that seemed to guide him along the path. The memory of Ho-Oh's flight lingered, a quiet presence threading through the rhythm of the day, calling him forward with gentle insistence. He walked along the winding forest path, stepping carefully over roots and stones, attuned to the pulse of life around him. The air carried a delicate resonance, brushing softly against his skin and hair, a reminder of the wing beats of the Rainbow Guardian. Each gust of wind, each glimmer of sunlight on leaves or water, seemed to echo the arcs of Ho-Oh high above. Ash felt a calm certainty. The legendary was near. Not in the ordinary sense, but close enough to shape the energy of the forest, guiding him subtly with the rhythm of the world itself. The trail opened into a sunlit clearing. The stream that wound through it reflected the morning light in fleeting rainbows, and small Pokémon moved with deliberate care, Bellsprout swaying in harmony with the breeze, Poliwag slipping gently into the water, and Pidgey gliding softly from branch to branch. Ash knelt beside the stream, letting his hands glide through the cool current, feeling the subtle vibrations of life pulsing through the water. Each ripple, each reflection, seemed to carry the whisper of Ho-Oh, tangible yet elusive, a guide visible not in form but in presence. As he rose, a shimmer in the sky caught his eye. Red and gold flashed briefly among the clouds, the unmistakable hue of Ho-Oh's feathers. Ash tilted his head upward, heart steady yet full of anticipation. The arcs of the Guardian's wings were deliberate, slow, and majestic, scattering light across the landscape in gentle, transient rainbows. He understood that this moment was not for spectacle, it was an invitation, a subtle gesture encouraging him to notice, to be present, and to embrace the harmony of the world around him. The forest path wound upward, leading to a gentle slope that overlooked a wide valley. Streams meandered like silver ribbons, forests stretched endlessly, and distant mountains softened by the haze of midday sunlight. The wind shifted, brushing softly through the leaves and carrying faint traces of rainbow light. Ash felt it like a pulse, a quiet rhythm that aligned with the beating of Ho-Oh's wings. The legendary's presence was no longer distant. It was intimately woven into the energy of the land, tangible in its subtle guidance, and the movements of every living thing around him. By afternoon, the sunlight dappled the forest floor in golden patterns. Ash moved deliberately, observing the small signs. The shimmer of light on moss, the gentle sway of flowers in the breeze, the precise glide of a Pidgeotto above. Each detail seemed orchestrated by the Guardian's presence, a careful nudge along the path he was meant to follow. He realized that the journey toward Ho-Oh was not about speed, competition, or conquest. It was about awareness, patience, and the ability to perceive the extraordinary in quiet, ordinary moments. The wind grew warmer, carrying faint scents of earth and water, and Ash followed its subtle currents as they guided him toward higher ground. Shadows lengthened, stretching across the hills and forests like delicate fingers. He reached a plateau where the forest opened to a panoramic view of the valley below. The sunlight fractured across streams, leaves, and distant hills, forming delicate, fleeting rainbows that mirrored the arcs of Ho-Oh's flight high above. Ash paused, taking in the gentle symphony of light, wind, and life, feeling the Guardian's presence around him in a tangible, meditative embrace. Evening approached with muted shades of violet and rose, and Ash settled on the gentle slope of the plateau. The valley below shimmered with reflections of the fading sun, and the forest exhaled its daily rhythm. He closed his eyes, listening to the chorus of nocturnal Pokémon, crickets, Froakie, and distant Pidgeotto blending into a soft symphony. Every sound, every motion, every shimmer of light seemed infused with Ho-Oh's quiet guidance, reinforcing the connection that had grown stronger with each passing day. Night fell softly, carrying the cool breath of the forest and the faint scent of pine and earth. Ash drifted into rest beneath the open sky, feeling the presence of Ho-Oh more keenly than ever. The rainbow arcs, the shimmer of light, the gentle rhythm of the forest, all converged into a subtle but undeniable sense of the legendary Guardian's proximity. He felt connected not only to the world around him but to something greater, a patient and enduring presence that guided without intrusion, taught without words, and inspired without demand. As sleep embraced him, Ash dreamed of wings slicing gracefully through sunlight and clouds, arcs of rainbow light painting the heavens, and a quiet, enduring guidance that would accompany him always. The journey toward the Guardian had become a meditation on awareness, patience, and connection. A path illuminated by the soft, persistent light of Ho-Oh. The sky of Kanto stretched wide and calm, painted in soft hues of gold and lavender as dawn whispered its arrival. Ash rose slowly from the moss-covered slope where he had rested, the cool morning air brushing against his skin. The forest around him seemed alive, with quiet motion. Leaves shifting gently in the breeze, birds calling softly from hidden branches, and distant streams rippling over smooth stones. Each sound, each movement carried a weight of presence, a reflection of the subtle guidance he had felt in recent days from the Rainbow Guardian. As he walked along the winding forest path, Ash's senses felt heightened. The gentle resonance of the wind reminded him of Ho-Oh's wing beats, the way light fractured into delicate rainbows in the canopy, and the soft shimmer of water in the streams mirrored the arcs of the Guardian's flight. It was as though the forest itself had become a reflection of the legend, alive with subtle, deliberate rhythms. He moved with care, not in haste, absorbing every detail, feeling the presence of Ho-Oh growing ever closer with each step. The trail led upward to a high ridge, where the view stretched across an endless expanse of forests, rivers, and distant mountains softened by morning mist. The wind carried a warmth that seemed to hum in harmony with the pulse of life surrounding him. Ash's heart lifted as a glint of red and gold appeared far above the clouds. This time, it was no fleeting shimmer. The Rainbow Guardian was revealed in full majesty. Its wings spread wide, feathers glinting in the sunlight, cascading arcs of rainbow light across the sky. Each movement was deliberate, slow, and serene, radiating a quiet energy that settled into the forest and into Ash's very being. He stood still, feeling the magnitude of the presence, without fear or urgency. Ho-Oh's gaze seemed to extend beyond the visible, touching not just the earth and the creatures below, but the heart of the young trainer as well. The world held its breath in the quiet moment. Every rustle of leaves, every ripple in the streams, every motion of a Pokémon perfectly aligned with the rhythm of the Guardian's wings. Ash felt connected to something vast, eternal, and profoundly gentle. The Guardian did not demand attention. It offered guidance, calm, and presence. The wind shifted, brushing against Ash's face, carrying with it the faint warmth and shimmer of rainbow light. The air vibrated softly with the pulse of Ho-Oh's wings, and he felt a resonance deep within himself, a connection that went beyond sight or sound, a silent communication of patience, awareness, and understanding. The Rainbow Guardian's majesty was not defined by force or spectacle, but by the quiet strength of its presence, the grace of its movements, and the harmony it imparted to the world. Ash took a slow step forward, feeling the energy of the valley below, the streams winding like silver ribbons, the forests swaying gently in the breeze. Every detail seemed magnified in its beauty. Every sound resonated with a subtle rhythm. Every movement echoed the wings above. The forest, the rivers, the mountains, and even the smallest Pokémon became part of a living symphony conducted by Ho-Oh's presence. Ash realized that the journey had always been about perception, patience, and connection. The Guardian revealed not just itself, but the world through its serene, eternal lens. The afternoon light deepened, casting gentle shadows and painting the valley in soft amber and rose. Ash settled on a patch of moss, letting the moment envelop him. He breathed slowly, matching the rhythm of the wind, of the streams, of the heartbeat of life around him. The Guardian's presence was no longer distant or abstract. It was tangible, meditative, and enduring. Every breath, every beat of his heart, every glance across the valley reflected the quiet guidance of Ho-Oh, teaching him to move through the world with awareness, care, and calm reverence. As evening approached, the sky softened into muted violet and gold, and the first stars began to appear. Ho-Oh continued its flight high above, arcs of rainbow light tracing infinite patterns against the deepening sky. Ash felt a profound sense of peace settle within him, a knowledge that this encounter was both an ending and a beginning. The Guardian had revealed itself, but its lessons would ripple through him for every step of his journey forward, shaping his awareness, his understanding, and the gentle rhythm of his life alongside Pokémon and the world itself. Night embraced the valley in cool, quiet darkness. Crickets, Froakie, and distant Pidgeotto filled the air with a soft nocturnal symphony. Ash lay back on the moss, eyes lifted toward the stars, and felt the lingering warmth of Ho-Oh's presence in the rhythm of the wind, the shimmer of streams, and the quiet pulse of the forest. The Guardian's majesty, revealed in serenity and calm, had become a part of him, a guiding light threading through his dreams, his steps, and his heart. As sleep claimed him, he dreamed of wide skies, arcs of rainbow light, and wings moving with infinite grace. Ho-Oh's presence was now woven into the very fabric of his being, a silent, enduring guide in his meditative journey across Kanto. The Guardian had revealed itself not through grandeur alone, but through calm, subtle majesty, teaching patience, awareness, and reverence in every heartbeat and breath. The morning arrived with a gentle wash of gold and soft blue across the hills and forests of Kanto. Ash rose slowly, the earth beneath him cool and reassuring, the air filled with the quiet hum of life awakening. Each sound, the trickle of a stream, the flutter of wings, the rustle of leaves, felt amplified in its subtlety, echoing with a rhythm that spoke to the hidden order of the world. The memory of Ho-Oh lingered, its presence not only in the sky but embedded in every pulse of the forest, every movement of the streams, every step of Pokémon in the underbrush. Ash began his walk along the winding trail with deliberate care, each step resonating with the rhythm of the forest. The wind brushed softly against his face, carrying hints of pine, earth, and distant blossoms. He felt the gentle echo of Ho-Oh's wings vibrating through the currents of air, a reminder that the guardian's presence was not distant, but intertwined with the fabric of life itself. Today, he would feel more than the rainbow guardian. He would sense the subtle connections that bound all legendary Pokémon together, threads of presence that linked the land, the skies, and its creatures. The trail led him to a serene riverbank, where water flowed gently over smooth stones, reflecting the sunlight in delicate, shifting patterns. Ash knelt beside the stream, letting his fingers glide through the cool water, feeling its pulse and rhythm. He sensed the whispers of the legendary Ho-Oh's flight, leaving ripples that reached far beyond the skies, touching lands, forests, and seas. The water seemed to shimmer with a story, hinting at the guardians that watched over time, space, and nature itself. Every reflection, every ripple, was a fragment of the larger tapestry of the world, a silent narrative of harmony and care. The forest around him was alive with subtle motion. Pidgeotto glided gracefully among the branches. Bellsprout swayed in the breeze, and a group of Poliwag moved in a slow, deliberate dance along the river's edge. Ash realized that each movement carried meaning, a reflection of the balance maintained by the legendaries. He felt the threads of connection between them, linking sky, land, and water. As though each wing beat, ripple, and swaying leaf was orchestrated by an unseen hand. Ho-Oh was only one note in the symphony, its presence guiding him toward awareness of a grander, invisible network of life. By midday, Ash climbed a gentle rise that opened to a panoramic view of the valley below. Rivers wove like silver threads through endless forests. Mountains rose in soft, distant outlines, and sunlight glimmered on scattered streams and lakes. The wind carried faint traces of rainbow light, a subtle resonance from Ho-Oh's flight earlier in the day. Ash felt it deeply, a quiet pulse connecting him to the energy of the world and the presence of other legendary Pokémon, whose influence rippled in harmony with the guardian above. The threads of legend were subtle, often invisible to the casual eye, yet profoundly woven into the rhythm of life. As the afternoon light grew warmer, the forest revealed delicate signs of interconnected presence. Sunlight breaking through leaves formed fleeting rainbow arcs. Small Pokémon moved with measured grace, and the streams reflected the patterns of the sky above. Ash paused to notice these moments, understanding that awareness itself was a form of connection, a way to feel the invisible threads that bound Ho-Oh, Lugia, and the other guardians to the natural world. The legendary's guidance was not loud or immediate. It was a quiet, persistent network of influence that shaped the rhythm of life, encouraging balance, patience, and harmony. Evening approached with soft violet and rose hues painting the sky. Ash settled beneath a grove of ancient trees, letting the day's experiences settle within him. The valley shimmered in the fading sunlight, streams glinting like silver threads woven through the landscape, forests breathing in calm unison, and distant mountains softened by twilight. He closed his eyes and felt the resonance of Ho-Oh and other legendaries weaving through the world, guiding him gently, teaching him to notice, to feel, and to understand the deeper patterns that connected every creature, stream, tree, and gust of wind. Night fell slowly, carrying the cool breath of the forest and the quiet chorus of nocturnal Pokémon. Crickets, Froakie, and distant Pidgeotto, blending into a gentle symphony. Ash lay back, gazing up at the first stars piercing the darkened sky. He imagined the Rainbow Guardian and its kin moving silently across the world, arcs of rainbow light tracing invisible paths, threads of legend connecting every being in delicate harmony. The quiet understanding that grew within him was profound. The legendaries were not only guardians, but guides, subtle instructors, teaching awareness, patience, and the interwoven nature of life itself. As sleep claimed him, Ash dreamed of skies filled with wings and arcs of rainbow light, rivers reflecting soft, shimmering glimmers, and forests alive with the subtle dance of life. He felt a sense of belonging within this vast network, a deep connection to the guardians whose presence guided him. The threads of legend, woven invisibly through the world, were now a part of his awareness, a quiet, meditative understanding that would accompany him on every step of his journey. The dawn broke softly over Kanto, spreading gentle hues of gold, rose, and pale lavender across the hills and forests. Ash rose slowly, the earth beneath him cool and comforting. Every sound of the forest, the ripple of a stream, the whisper of the wind through leaves, the distant call of waking Pokémon, seemed imbued with a quiet energy that guided his steps. The presence of Ho-Oh lingered in the air, subtle yet persistent, and Ash felt a deepening connection, as though the guardian itself were reaching out, not through sight alone, but through the rhythm of the world. He walked along a winding forest path, attuned to the smallest movements around him. A leaf fluttering in the breeze, the gentle sway of flowers, the careful step of a pollywag along the stream. The wind carried with it a familiar resonance, echoing the arcs of Ho-Oh's wings. Ash realized that the guardian's guidance was becoming more personal, more deliberate, as if calling him forward with patient insistence. The world itself seemed to pulse in gentle waves, each step bringing him closer to a presence that was both vast and intimately near. The path opened into a quiet glade, sunlight filtering through tall trees to form delicate patterns on the mossy floor. Ash paused, letting the soft warmth of the sun settle over him. Small Pokémon moved with measured grace, aware of the guardian's unseen presence. Pidgeotto gliding silently among the branches, Bellsprout swaying gently, and a Poliwag slipping smoothly into the clear water. Every movement felt synchronized with the gentle heartbeat of the forest, a reflection of the quiet, enduring energy Ho-Oh imparted to the world. A sudden shimmer of red and gold caught Ash's eye high above the canopy. Ho-Oh traced a slow, deliberate arc through the sky. Wings spread wide, feathers glinting like liquid sunlight. Ash felt his chest tighten with a serene anticipation, a quiet stirring that was more than excitement. It was recognition. The guardian was calling not just to his eyes, but to his heart, inviting him to notice, to feel, and to understand the depth of its presence. The rainbow of light scattered across the sky and forest below seemed to resonate with every heartbeat, every breath, every movement around him. Ash continued along the trail, feeling the subtle pull of the guardian guiding him. The wind shifted, carrying scents of earth, pine, and distant water, and with each step, the pulse of Ho-Oh's presence became more tangible. Small rainbows shimmered in the sunlight on leaves and droplets, arcs of color forming and dissolving in a delicate dance. Ash realized that this call was not a command, but an invitation to attune himself fully, to be present, aware, and patient, to feel the harmony of the world and the guardians within it. By midday, Ash reached a high slope overlooking the valley below. Rivers glinted like silver threads, forests stretched endlessly, and distant mountains were softened by the warmth of sunlight. The guardian's presence seemed to ripple across the land. The arcs of rainbow light reflected in streams, shimmering on leaves, and tracing subtle patterns through the wind. Ash knelt, placing his hands gently on the earth, feeling the pulse of life under his fingers. The heart's call was real, tangible, and profoundly serene, connecting him not just to Ho-Oh, but to the balance and rhythm of life itself. The afternoon moved gently, shadows stretching softly across the hills and valleys. Ash followed the currents of air and light, letting them guide his path. Every subtle sign, a leaf falling, a ray of sunlight, the flight of a Pidgeotto, felt infused with meaning. A message from the guardian. Patience, presence, and connection are the truest forms of guidance. The heart's call was both gentle and insistent, an echo in every movement of the forest, in every shimmer of light, and in every ripple of the streams. As evening fell, painting the sky in muted shades of rose, amber, and violet, Ash settled beneath the branches of a wide, ancient tree. The first stars appeared faintly above, twinkling in quiet rhythm with the valley below. Ho-Oh continued its serene flight far above, arcs of rainbow light tracing infinite paths against the deepening sky. Ash felt the pulse of the guardian in the wind, in the shimmer of the streams, and in the subtle movements of the forest. The call had reached him fully now, quiet yet profound. A gentle bond threaded through the heart and soul of the world. Night deepened, carrying the soft symphony of nocturnal life. Crickets, froki, and distant Pidgeotto creating a meditative chorus. Ash lay back, eyes lifted toward the stars, feeling the heart's call settle into him. Rainbow arcs lingered in his imagination. Wing beats resonated in his chest, and a serene clarity filled his being. The connection was intimate, meditative, and eternal. A reminder that Ho-Oh's guidance was always present, gentle, yet unwavering, and woven into the fabric of life itself. As sleep embraced him, Ash dreamed of wide skies, infinite arcs of rainbow light, and the guardian moving with grace and patience across the heavens. The heart's call had become part of him, a quiet, enduring guide threading through every step of his journey, every breath, and every heartbeat. The morning arrived softly, spreading pale gold and gentle rose light across the hills and forests of Kanto. Ash rose slowly, the earth beneath him firm yet comforting, the air infused with the subtle hum of life awakening. Each sound, the gentle trickle of a stream, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of Pokémon, seemed imbued with a quiet, living energy. The presence of Ho-Oh lingered, gentle yet persistent, and Ash felt a growing awareness of the guardian not only as a being of majesty, but as a protector, a custodian of hope woven through every living thing. He walked along the forest path with deliberate care, attuning himself to the rhythm of life around him. The wind brushed softly against his face, carrying hints of pine, earth, and the distant shimmer of rainbows. Each movement of the leaves, each ripple in a stream, seemed to echo Ho-Oh's presence, a reminder that hope and guidance could be felt even without sight. Ash realized that the guardian's purpose extended beyond its flight. It touched the hearts of Pokémon and humans alike, nurturing courage, patience, and resilience in the quietest yet most profound ways. The path opened into a sunlit clearing where a gentle stream wound through soft moss and smooth stones. Ash knelt beside it, letting the cool water run through his fingers, feeling the pulse of life mirrored in its movement. Small Pokémon moved with careful grace, Bellsprout swaying in the breeze, Poliwag dipping into the stream, and Pidgeotto gliding silently above. Their deliberate, calm motions seemed to reflect the guardian's influence, a harmony of hope and presence that infused the landscape. Ash understood, with quiet certainty, that Ho-Oh's guidance was not merely for himself. It was a silent, ever-present force, nurturing the courage and well-being of all creatures. High above, the sun shimmered through thin clouds, catching the faint glint of red and gold feathers. Ho-Oh traced slow, elegant arcs in the sky, scattering light, like gentle rainbows, over the valley below. Ash felt the warmth of its presence, a calm, reassuring energy that spoke of protection, of care, and of hope, enduring even through quiet, unseen moments. The guardian's power was subtle but profound, teaching that true guidance is often measured in patience, awareness, and the quiet nurturing of life, rather than grand displays of force. By afternoon, Ash reached a gentle slope that overlooked a broad valley. Rivers wove like silver threads, forests stretched endlessly, and the mountains stood tall in muted light. The wind carried soft arcs of rainbow, shimmering across streams and treetops. Ash paused, letting the serene energy settle within him. He could feel the threads of Ho-Oh's presence stretching across the land, binding together creatures, streams, forests, and sky in an invisible web of protection and hope. The Rainbow Guardian's essence seemed to whisper, even in the smallest actions and quietest moments. The heart of the world is sustained by care and attention. The day waned gently, and evening painted the sky in soft shades of lavender, rose, and gold. Ash found a quiet, moss-covered spot beneath the sheltering branches of an ancient tree. The valley below shimmered with the reflection of the fading sun on rivers and leaves, and the forest exhaled its evening rhythm. He closed his eyes and felt the gentle heartbeat of life around him, the enduring energy of Ho-Oh, guiding, comforting, and protecting. Hope was not only in sight or action, it was in the awareness, in the patience, in the quiet connection between all living beings. Night approached with a soft embrace, carrying the gentle chorus of nocturnal Pokémon, crickets, Froakie, and distant Pidgeotto, creating a tranquil symphony. Ash lay back, eyes toward the first stars that pierced the darkening sky. The arcs of rainbow light that marked Ho-Oh's flight lingered in his mind, a quiet, meditative pulse that threaded through every breath and heartbeat. The Guardian's presence, steadfast and serene, reminded him that hope is not fleeting. It flows quietly through the world, through land, sky, streams, forests, and hearts. As sleep claimed him, Ash dreamed of wide skies, serene arcs of rainbow light, and the gentle, enduring presence of Ho-Oh moving gracefully above. The Guardian's guidance and protection had become part of him, a calm, eternal force threading through his journey. The Rainbow Guardian had revealed itself not only as a legend of power and light, but as a custodian of hope, a gentle presence that nurtures life with quiet care and meditative strength. The first light of dawn spilled gently across the hills and valleys of Kanto, painting the forests and rivers in soft gold and delicate rose. Ash rose slowly, the cool earth beneath him, grounding each breath. The forest exhaled quietly, alive with motion and rhythm. The soft trickle of a stream, the rustle of leaves in the morning breeze, the distant calls of waking Pokémon. Each sound, each shimmer of light felt infused with meaning, the pulse of life resonating in harmony with the presence that had guided him through countless days. Ho-Oh, the Rainbow Guardian. As he walked along the familiar path, Ash sensed the energy of the world flowing in subtle arcs around him. The wind brushed softly against his face, carrying faint traces of rainbow light and the delicate scent of pine, earth, and blossoms. He felt the Guardian's presence not as something separate, but as part of a living rhythm, threading through every step, every breath, and every heartbeat. Ho-Oh's influence had become a quiet, meditative force, visible not only in the arcs of its wings, but in the patterns of life around him. The trail led him to a sunlit clearing, where a gentle stream wound through moss-covered stones. Ash knelt, letting his hands glide through the cool water, feeling the pulse of life mirrored in its flow. Small Pokémon moved gracefully around him, Bellsprout swaying in harmony with the breeze, Poliwag slipping effortlessly through the stream, and Pidgeotto gliding silently above. Every motion reflected the Guardian's influence, a subtle choreography of life, hope, and serenity. Ash felt a profound connection, a quiet understanding of the rhythm of the world and the threads of guidance Ho-Oh wove into it. High above, red and gold feathers shimmered against the pale sky. Ho-Oh traced slow, elegant arcs through the heavens, wings spread wide, scattering light like liquid rainbows. The Guardian's flight was majestic yet gentle, deliberate yet effortless. Ash felt its presence resonate deeply within him, a guiding rhythm, a source of quiet inspiration, and a steady reminder of the enduring harmony in the world. Each beat of its wings seemed to echo the pulse of life itself, connecting sky, land, streams, forests, and hearts in a meditative unity. By midday, Ash reached a high ridge overlooking the valley below. Rivers glinted like silver threads, forests stretched endlessly, and distant mountains softened under the warmth of sunlight. The arcs of rainbow light reflected across streams and leaves, carrying the quiet message of Ho-Oh: patience, awareness, and harmony are the true measures of strength. Ash felt the culmination of the journey he had followed. Each step, each observation, each quiet moment of reflection had brought him to a full awareness of the Guardian's eternal presence. As afternoon light softened, Ash settled on a moss-covered slope, letting the serenity of the valley envelop him. He breathed slowly, attuning himself to the rhythm of the forest, the gentle movement of the streams, the flight of distant Pokémon, and the arcs of light above. Ho-Oh's presence felt eternal, woven into the very fabric of the world and into Ash's heart. He understood fully now. The Guardian's flight was never just a momentary spectacle, but an everlasting guide, a living meditation of harmony, hope, and connection. Evening arrived with muted shades of violet and rose, and the first stars appeared, delicate against the deepening sky. Ho-Oh continued its serene flight, arcs of rainbow light tracing infinite patterns above the forests, rivers, and mountains. Ash lay back, eyes toward the heavens, feeling the quiet pulse of the Guardian in the wind, the shimmer of streams, and the subtle rhythm of the forest. The eternal flight of Ho-Oh was a living, breathing presence within him, a thread of guidance, inspiration, and meditative calm that would accompany him always. Night deepened, carrying the gentle chorus of nocturnal Pokémon, crickets, Froakie, and distant Pidgeotto blending into a soft, tranquil symphony. Ash drifted into sleep, the arcs of rainbow light, the whisper of wings, and the pulse of life threading seamlessly into his dreams. The Guardian's presence was eternal, its lessons of patience, awareness, hope, and harmony fully realized. He felt a profound sense of peace and connection, knowing that Ho-Oh's flight would guide not only his journey through Kanto, but every step he would take beyond it, silently and endlessly. As stars twinkled faintly above, Ash dreamed of wide skies, wings moving with infinite grace, and the arcs of rainbow light illuminating paths unseen. The eternal flight had become part of him, a quiet, meditative presence threading through his journey, his thoughts, and his heart, a living reminder of the beauty, patience, and harmony of the world, carried forever on the gentle, persistent wings of Ho-Oh.